Today, I will be summarizing the first 4 chapters of the book Larceny in the Heart by Rousas John Rushdoony. Chapter 1 is titled The Meaning of Inflation. The chapter begins with Rushdoony stating that governments try to start a war on inflation, but there is no easy way for them to defeat the enemy because the government will go down with it. Rushdoony talks about how the state calls for sovereignty and gives itself the power to create things. However, to gain full power, the state needs something to get the power, and that thing is money. Therefore, as the state creates more money, they also create inflation. According to Rushdoony, inflation is larceny, and he states that on page 9. Inflation makes money worth less than the face value, so it robs people of their wealth by decreasing the value of their money. In the end, there is no war on inflation because the government creates it. However, the government does not admit that it is the cause of inflation and blames the citizens, who point their fingers right back at the government. Chapter 2 is titled Regulations. Rushdoony begins by stating that we will not be able to escape regulations until we die. Regulations are necessary because they attempt to hold people in check and try to keep the world in order. One myth of regulations is that life without regulations lead to chaos, whereas a life with regulations lead to order and fairness. A second myth is that the life without regulations is a lawless life. Finally, Rushdoony examines the church and how the church has relied on church-imposed controls to try and bring people to Christ, instead of trusting in the power of the Holy Spirit. From this chapter, Rushdoony confidently believes that instead of regulating society, regulations work towards the destruction of society and regulations. Chapter 3 in Larceny in the Heart is titled Rationing. Rushdoony begins Chapter 3 by describing Adam's thoughts towards the Garden of Eden and how he has no tools to work the ground. Today, farmers have all kinds of tools to help them cultivate and make use of the land, and the profession is still laborious and requires many hours. Therefore, although Adam was not excited about having no tools, people today would be even less excited about the garden. Additionally, Adam not only had to work the ground, but he also had to name the animals. He had a very large task in the garden, and he had to do this all by himself. The job of caretaker in the Garden of Eden was no small or easy job. We all know the rest of the story. God provided Adam with a partner. However, they were both tempted by Satan, and they were thrown out of the garden to experience hard work and pain for the rest of their lives. All of this leads to rationing, which is by one of two means: pricing or state controls. The problem with rationing is that the state places itself in God's chair. Therefore, the Christian cannot support rationing because we are supposed to place no thing ahead of God. Finally, Chapter 4 is titled The Economics of Satan. Satan is constantly at work in the world today and will do everything he can to harm people or rob them of the truth. Today, economically, we see presidents offer us their 4-year economic plan on how to create a better economy. But it is all the work of the evil one. When Satan tempted Jesus in the desert, the first temptation was economically. Now, God and Jesus, who have divine power, could have turned the stones into bread. But economic problems should not overrule religious problems. After all, Jesus alone is the bread of life. Those who are given economic power become messianic, and thusly become the economists of Satan.